We begin today the bottom of Daf Chav Zayin with Beis, the very last line. It said in the Mishnah, "V'loi shel noshim lo'ola mipnei hakovet," that a coffin of a woman that's not left out in the street to do a hesped, but you bury immediately. Pnei hakovet, for the honor of the woman, Rashi said in the Mishnah, because there's a flow of ziva, so therefore you bury her immediately. Omri Nerdoi said about this Mishnah, Leishanu, this was only said Elochaya, a woman that died at the time when she was giving birth. So then there's taka embarrassment because there's blood that's coming out of her body. But any other women could be left and could be brought out into the street and to make a hesped. Rabbi Lazar argues and says, all women, doesn't matter, they always should be buried immediately. The chsiv, like it says in the pasuk, Vatamas Sham Miriam passed away, and she was buried over there, which means Samuch Lemisa, right when she passed away, Kvura, they buried her right away. They didn't bring her out and place her in the outside and do a hesped. Rabbi Lazar says about the Miriam which passed away, Af Miriam b'neshika Mesa. Miriam also passed away with a kiss from the Eibishter. How do we know this? Asya Sham mi Moshe. We compare the word Sham that it says here to the word Sham that it says by Moshe. So why doesn't the Torah clearly write Al Pi Hashem that she passed away with a kiss from the Eibishter? It's disgraceful to speak this way regarding the Eibishter. Ravami says, why is Miriam's passing away, saying the parsha in the Torah and Chukas right after the parsha of Paraduma? To tell you, ma Paraduma mechaperes, just like Paraduma brings a kapara, af misasan shel tzadikim, so too when tzadikim pass away, mechaperes. This brings a kapara. Alter Rebbe speaks about this in Tanya, in Igeres HaKodesh. Simach Chav Ches, and we're on Daf Chav Ches here. Very interesting. So the Alter Rebbe speaks about this, that the kapara of a Paraduma is even more powerful than the kapara of a karmachatas. Karmachatas is for a shegig, paraduma is for a tumas meis, and it's done outside of the machne, and the kapara of a paraduma reaches even lower than a regular carbon. So the misa of a tzaddik also has a tremendous impact on the world, even lower and more than just a regular carbon. Amar Rabbi Lazar said, why is when Arakayim passed away, why is it said in near the Indian of Big Day Kohona? It says over there in the pasuk that he took off his big day kahuna and he gave it to his son, and then he passed away. Ma big day kahuna, just like it by the big day kahuna. This week's parsha. Machaprin, so they bring a kapara. Kind of do the avodah, and it brings a kapara. Af misasan shel tzadikim mechaperes. So too, the misa of the tzadikim brings a kapara. Tana Rabbanan, we learned in a brayse. Meis pisaim, a person passes away suddenly. Zui misa chatufa. This is called a misa chatufa, where a person's life was snatched out of him. Chal yom echad, if a person was sick for one day, umeis, and he passes away. Zui misa dechufa. This is a death which was pushed. It was very hastened. Rab Chananya ben Gamliel says zui misas magefa. This is a death in a time of a plague. Shenema, there's a pasuk that says, "Ben Adam, hineni lekech mumchas machma deinecha." I will take away what you love of your eyes, talking about his wife. B'magefa, in a plague. And then it says, "Va'adaber ala'am ba'boiker." I spoke to the people in the morning. V'atamas ishti ba'arev, and my wife passed away in the evening. So we see that when you pass away the same day, it's called magefa. Shnei yamim, if a person passes away after being sick for 2 days, umeis, and he passes away, zui misa duchuya. This is a misa which is the chuya, which is also being pushed. It's also a pretty quick misa. Gimel, after 3 days, gara. This is the Eibishter also that's screaming at a person, that's rebuking a person. That's why it comes so quickly. Arba nezifa. After 4 days is also something which is not unusual. Nezifa, where the Eibishter rejects the person and therefore he passes away so quickly. Chamisha, person that's sick for 5 days and then he passes away, zui misas kol adam. That's already in the category of a regular death where a person passes away. Rav Chanan says, Ma'ikra, where do you see that 5 days is a regular time period, a person that's sick and passes away? Because it says, Henkarvi yamechal lamos. It says, where's this pasuk? This is by Moshe Rabbeinu, that it's come close to days for you to pass away. So we darshan as follows. Hein is chad, the word hein is 1 day. Karvu, plural, is trei, 2 day, another 2 days, and Yomecha, trei is another 2 days. Ha-chamisha. So you have 5 days over here, that after that, when you pass away, it's considered to be the regular misa. How do we know that Hain is one day? Because Hain, Echad, Shekem B'Lashon Yevani, Kairin La'achas Hain. In Yevani, in Greek, the one is Hain. That's one. That's why it's one. Person that passes away by age of 50, Zui Misas Kadis. That's the Misa of Kadis, when a person deserves Kadis, so he doesn't live beyond the age of 50. Chamishim Mishtayim Shana, a person that passes away, 52 years old, Zui Misas Shmuel Ramasi. This is the Misa of Shmuel Ramasi that passed away at that age. Shishim, person that passes away at the age of 60, Zui Misa B'dei Shamayim. This is the Misa B'dei Shamayim. So Taisus brings over here that it says that when the Yidden were in the Midbar, so nobody passed away below the age of 60. Right? They were there for 40 years, and then for each year, some of the Yidden passed away. They were not going to enter into Eretz Yisrael, but it's only when they reached the age of 60. So you see that Misa B'dei Shamayim is at the age of 60. Huh? No, Kadis is before. Kadis is at the age of 50. The age of 50, Taisus brings that it's related to the age of 50 years old, that it says by Shevet Levi, that they work until 50 years old. And then after 50 years old, they don't work anymore. So therefore, a person that, if you take the life of a person, Taisus says that the lifetime of a person is 70 years old. You take away the first 20 years that he wasn't yet Bar Einshin, Bidei Shemayim, so that's leaves you with 50. 50 years that the person works in this world, and after that he passes away, that means that he was Chayiv Kadis. Mazutra says, Maikra, where do you see this? That the age of 60 is a Misa B'dei Shamayim, D'chsiv, Tovei B'kolach, Elai Kever. You come B'kolach to meet, to be buried. What does B'kolach over here mean? B'kolach is B'gematria Shitin Hava. B'kolach is the gematria of 60. So when a person passes away at that age, that means that the Eibusher took his life. Misa B'dei Shamayim. Shivim, if a person passes away at the age of 70, Seva. This means that he's already reached the age of Seva, which is old age. Shmainim, a person passes away at 80, Gvurais. That's the age of the strength that a person reached to, much more than Seva. The Chsiv, as the Pasuk says, Yimesh Nesene Behem Shivim Shana, the lifetime of a person in this world is 70 years. And then it says, Gvurais Shmainim Shana. And then Gvurais is 80 years old is Gvurais. Rabbe says, regarding what we said before, that by 50 years old, that shows in Kadis, Michamishim va'at shishim shana, from 50, a person that passes away anywhere from 50 to 60, Zui Misas Kadis. That is the Misa of Kadis. The reason why the Braisi before didn't say this out clearly, that it's from 50 to 60, because for the honor of Shmuel Ramasi, Shmuel Hanavi that passed away at 52 years old. And of course, he passed away for a different reason, but because he passed away between 50 and 60, he didn't want to mention it. Sagt the Gemara, Rav Yosef ki have bar shitten. Rav Yosef, when he reached 60 years old, so he made a big Yom Tov, he made a big celebration for the Rabbanon. Amar, he said, Nafkali Mikadis. I came now to the age that I left the time period that if I would have passed away then, it would have been an Indian of Kadis. Amalei Abaye, so Abaye said about this, Nhi the Nafkali Mar Mikadis Deshani. Yes, you have left that time period in your life where you would be passing away and it would be in of Kadis, but Mikadis de Yaimi, Kadis, which means even if later, after that age, a person would be liable for Kadis, so what happens then? So if he's Chayiv in Kadis after that age, then the person would pass away immediately. Minafik Mar, did you leave yet the possibility that you would be Chayiv Kadis later on? And then the Gemara before said, Misa Chatufa, that a person passes away suddenly, that comes as a result of Kadis. So from that, you haven't left yet. How do you know that you're not going to be Chayiv Kadis? Amalei Rav Yosef said, no, there's still a reason to celebrate. But at least I have half, that to this point in my life, I'm not Chayiv in Kadis anymore, so if I'm celebrating the fact that I reached the age of 60. The Rebbe spoke about this Gemara Barichis, and the Rebbe made a Fabrengen, on Yer Aleph Nisan Tavshechav Beis, by the Rebbe, when the Rebbe was 60 years old. This is exactly 60 years ago, basically. And the Rebbe spoke about this scene that you see here, the celebration that Rav Yosef said. And the Rebbe said, you don't find any other Amirayim that made such a kind of celebration when they were 60 years old. Dafka Rav Yosef. And the Rebbe explained the reason is because B'derech Klal, the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, B'zman Hazeh, we can't make any celebration for the fact that you're living and you're not Chayiv Kadis, because the Alter Rebbe in Tanya says that the person today can get Chayis from Klippah, and therefore you don't know if you were Chayiv Kadis or not. When a person was Chayiv Kadis, Yitaka passed away right away. But today a person can continue getting Chayis from Klippah. But Rav Yosef, his life, he knew that his life was completely holy. That everybody brings the Mekayis in the Gemara where you see that he actually had an option to become the leader of Yidden, and he gave it up to Rabbah. We learned this in the Gemara in Shabbos. And the Gemara there says that because he gave it up to Rabbah, he didn't have to see a doctor for 22 years. He was living a perfect, healthy life. And he lived a holy life. So he knew that his life that he was living was completely holy because he wasn't Chayiv Kodesh. So therefore he celebrated this. And then the Rebbe also says, and I later, he doesn't know if he's going to be Chayiv Kodesh again, like the question that Abaya asked him. So really the point is, Rav Yosef later made himself blind. Because Rav Yosef did not want to see anything negative in the world. It says Rav Yosef became blind, he made himself blind. Which is a very unusual thing. So therefore Rav Yosef knew that even though a person always has bechira, but a person, the way he treated himself and what he did to himself, he became blind, that he was basically sure about himself that he's not going to be Chayiv Kodesh anymore. Therefore he made the celebration. Even though the way he responded to Abaya was sort of with a hanava, with a humility. He said, no, I at least have half of half of a reason to celebrate. But be'emes, he was only able to celebrate because he was pretty confident that he's not going to be Chayiv Kodesh anymore. Sagt the Gemara weiter, Rav Huna noch nafshei pisse. Rav Huna passed away suddenly. Have a kadai Rabbanan. The Rabbanan were concerned about this. What does this mean? Like I just said, a person that passes away suddenly, that's a sign that he was Chayiv Kodesh. So Tanalo Hozugid the Mahadayev, this group of Chachamim that came from Mahadayev, they come and said about this, that Lo Shanu Ela Shelo Yagia Legvura. A person that passes away suddenly, it's a sign that he was Chayiv Kodesh. That's a person that did not reach to the age of Gvuras, 80 years old. Aval Yagia Legvura is a person that's past the age of 80, and then he passes away suddenly, Zui Misas Nashika. This is actually a good sign. This is a misa of a kiss from the Eibishter. Amar Rava says, Chaye, Bone, Umezayne. Life, children, and sustenance. This is not something which is dependent on a person's merits. It's dependent on a mazel, which is above it, higher than a person's merits. How do we see this? Taisus actually asks on this, don't we know that it says that Yidden don't have a mazel? So Taisus says, yeah, it says Yidden don't have a mazel, but sometimes the things that happen to Yidden could change through a mazel. Or there's actually a Rashi in Masechta Sukkah where Rashi says, this that the Gemara says, Ein mazel Yisrael, doesn't mean that Yidden don't have a mazel. Yidden have a mazel, but Yidden have a koyach to daven and change their mazel. So over here it's saying that b'derech klal, the bona chaim zayin of a person does not come b'schus, it comes with a mazel. But there's an Amaimer from the Rebbe where the Rebbe says that it's true, Taka, that the regular darga that the Eibishter provides for a person, bona chaim zayin, it comes from a mazel, but you can still daven and receive more than what the mazel has. A person, through his davening, can go higher than the mazel. That's what it means, a mazel Yisrael. Okay, so the Gemara brings a source for this, where you see that it's just totally in a mazel and not in the schos of a person. Rabbi and Rav Chisda were both Rabbanon, they were both big tzaddikim. Mar matzli vasi mitra. Rabbi davened and rain came. Umar matzli vasi mitra. And Rav Chisda davened and rain came. So we see they were both equally great tzaddikim. And nevertheless, Rav Chisda chaya tishin v'tartnishnin. Rav Chisda lived to the age of 92. And Rabbi chaya arbon. And Rabbi only lived 40 years old. So we see that life is something which is a mazel. Bei Rav Chisda, and in the family of Rav Chisda, Shitten Luli. He had 60 weddings that he attended of his children, his Eineklach. Bei Rabbi, but in the family of Rabbi, Shitten Tichli. He was 60 different events that he had to attend where people passed away. Taisva says, some say that this is lavdafka, this number of Shitten is like an exaggeration. But the point is, you see the difference in their mazel. Bei Rav Chisda, and so that's been again to children. And then you see the same regarding also sustenance, that it's not totally in the schos, but in mazel. Bei Rav Chisda, by the house of Rav Chisda, he was extremely rich, and smide lekalbe. They gave the bread, even from the best flour, even they served that to the dogs. V'loy mizbaye, and they did not have to go and ask and beg for this. They had more than enough. Bei Rabbe, name de sa'ari. Even just to have bread from a very inferior quality, from barley, le'inchi, for the people in the house, they couldn't find it. They didn't have enough of this. They were very poor. Rabbi said, Hani, Rava said, Hani tlas mili boy kamishmaya. There are 3 things that I asked from the Eibishter. Tarti yavali, 2 the Eibishter gave me, chadala yavali. And 1 he didn't give me. What did he ask? Chochmese de Rav Huna ve'usrei de Rav Chisda. He asked for the wisdom of Rav Huna, and he asked for the riches of Rav Chisda. V'yavali, and those 2 things the Eibishter gave me. And v'sanusei de Rabbi bar Rav Huna, I asked for the humility of Rabbi bar Rav Huna, v'lo yavali, and I wasn't granted this. Gemara now continues with different stories of different Amiroim when they passed away. Rav Sa'odim, or some say it's spelled with a sin, with a samach, that is, instead of a sin. But Rav Sa'odim was Achua de Rava. He was the brother of Rava. Hava Yosef kamei de Rava. He was sitting in front of Rava. Chazieh da Hava kamenamnem. He saw that he's dozing off. What this refers to is right before Rava was passing away, he was mamash like a geisus already. Amalei, Rava says to his brother, Leimele Mar, tell the master, referring to the Malach HaMaves, the Leilat Tzara, when he takes my neshama, he shouldn't cause me any pain. Amalei, so his brother Rav Sa'odim says back to Rava, Mar lav sheshvilihu, aren't you his friend? So you can talk to him directly. Amalei, so Rava said, Kivin de imser, once I'm given over into his hands, Mazala, my mazal is given over to him, lo yashkech bi. He's not going to listen to me anymore. So there's no point of me asking him anything. And then he passed away, but before that, Amalei, his brother, told him, L'schazi limar, I want you to appear to me after you pass away. Ischazi lei, so Rava appeared to his brother, Amalei, so Rav Sa'odim asks his brother Rava, Havalei lamar tzaret, so was it painful when you passed away? Amalei, so he said to him, Kirivde dukuslisa. The pain was like a puncture that you give when you draw out blood. That's all. In other words, it wasn't painful so much. Rav, similar story. Rav Ava Yosef kamed Rav Nachman. Rav was sitting in front of Rav Nachman right before he passed away. Chazi, the common amnem, he saw he's dozing off. He's about to pass away. Malay, Rav Nachman says to Rav, Lim le mar de leilat tzaran. Tell the Malach HaMavis not to give me any pain. Malay, Rav says to Rav Nachman, Mar la avodim choshevu. Are you not a choshev person? Can't you speak to the Malach HaMavis and ask this yourself? Amalei, so Rav Nachman answers, Man choshev, who's honorable, who man soften, who is choshev significant or on a high level, man rekia, who's powerful like the rekia that's spread out. Or Taisus Rashi says, Mesukin, who's Mesukin to speak to the Malach HaMavis at this point in my life? I can't. At this point, I don't have any power to speak to the Malach HaMavis. Amalei, so Rav asks Rav Nachman the same thing, L'schazili ma, appeared to me after you passed away. He appeared to him after he passed away. Amalei, he asked Rav Nachman, Havalei lamar tzara, was it painful when you passed away? Amalei, ki mishchal binisa michalba. It was like pulling out a hair from milk, which is easy, and therefore my neshama, when it left its body, was not difficult, it was not painful. So the Gemara, and then he said to him, Vi amali HaKadosh Baruch Hu, zil bahu alma, kad havis, if the Eibusher would tell me, return to that world that you were in, le ba'ina, I would not want to return, the nafish bi'asusei, because the fear is very big. She says the fear of the Malach HaMavis is very big. So the Gemara, Rabbi Lazar ka'achol truma. Rabbi Lazar was eating truma. Ischazi lei, so the Malach HaMavis appeared to him to come and take his life. Amalei, he tells to the Malach HaMavis, Truma kachilna. I'm eating truma now. V'lav kaidesh ikri. Is the truma not kaidesh? You're gonna take away my life. It's gonna make this truma tummy. Chalfale shaitis. So the Malach HaMavis listened to him, and the time of him passing away was taken away, was removed, and he lived another few years. Rav Sheishes is chazile b'shuker. Rav Sheishes, the Malach HaMavis, appeared to him to take his life when he was in the marketplace. Amalei, Rav Sheishes says to the Malach HaMavis, b'shuker, ki behema, you're going to take my life here in the marketplace like an animal that dies in the middle of the street. Ki behemi, so isa legabe beisa, come with me to the house, and over there you can take my life. Rav Ashi also similar is chazile b'shuker. He appeared to him in the marketplace. Amalei, so Rav Ashi said to the Malach HaMavis, Israch li tlosen yomen. Wait for me 30 days. V'hadre la talmudoi. I'm going to review all of my Torah that I learned, all the Talmud, all the Torah that I'm learning. Tamrizu, because they said, Ashre misha ba'lekan v'talmud biyadeh. Fortunate is the one that comes in Shemayim and he has his Torah that he reviewed and he knows that he has it in his hands. So B'yayin Tlosen, on the 30th day, Asa, the Malach HaMavis, came to take his life. Amalei, so Rav Ashi says to the Malach HaMavis, My kulahai. What is the rush so much? It's still in the middle of the 30th day. You can't wait till the end of the day. What's the big rush? So the Malach HaMavis answers him, because kadochke ragle de barnosen. You're pushing the feet of Barnosen, which I believe this refers to Rav Huna, which was Barnosen, that he's supposed to become the Nasi after you. And we know that ve'ein malchus negas bechaverta filikim loinima. The kingdom and the leadership of one cannot touch the leadership that's destined to the other, even a tiny hairbreadth. So therefore, it's time for you to pass away. The Gemara Rav Chiste lo havi yochalei. The Rav Chiste, the Malach HaMavis, could not come to him, could not reach him, could not take away his life. Why not? Because he never stopped learning. So what did the Malach HaMavis do? Salik Yosef Ba'arza de Beirav. He went and sat in a cedar tree near the yeshiva of Rav, where Rav Chisda was learning. And Poka Arza, he broke off a branch from the cedar tree. And V'shasik. So for a moment, Rav Chisda looked up, he stopped learning. V'yachale. And then he was able to take away his neshama. Rav Chia, similar by Rav Chia, lo yav matzil mikrivele. The Malach HaMavis could not even get close to him. Yom Echad, what did he do? One day, idami lekanya. The Malach HaMavis came and he appeared to him like a poor person. Asa taraf above, and he came and he knocked on the door of his house. Amalei, and he said to Rav Chia, apik li rifte. Give me a piece of bread to eat. Apikile, he gave him a piece of bread. Amalei, so then he said to Rav Chisda, v'lav kamerachim mara anya. So aren't you a person that has mercy on poor people? Ahahu gavra, on that individual, referring to the Malach HaMavis, amay lagim kamerachim. Why don't you have any rachmanis on him? In other words, the Malach HaMavis is saying, I also have a mission from Hashem to fulfill, and allow me to fulfill my mission. Galilei, he revealed himself to Rav Chia who he is. Achvile shutta denura, he showed him a shutta denura, a fiery rod. And Amtzile Nafshe, Rav Chia made his neshama available to him that he should be able to take away his neshama and allow him to fulfill his shlichus. Yeah, see this holy Tanoim and Amiraim. It's whole different story. Okay, we begin Be'ezras Hashem Yisbarach, the very last mission of the Masechta. Zok the Heilige Mishnah, Noshim b'Moed. So the women and Chalamayit, so this is at the time of a Levaya, when there's a hesped, and the women also, so they cry, and they're masped, the person that passes away. So the women and Chalamayit, ma'anais, so they are ma'anais, when they cry, the Gemara will explain what ma'anais means. Avaloi metapchais, they don't clap their hands. Rabbi Shmuel says, asmuchas l'mita metapchais, those that are near the coffin could clap their hands. B'Rosh Chodashim on Rosh Chodesh, b'Chanukah or b'Purim, me'anais or metapchais, me'anis and metapchais. They could cry and they could clap their hands by the Levaya on Rosh Chodesh, Chanukah and Purim. B'zeh, but by both of them, by Rosh Chodesh, Chanukah and Purim, loy me'kainanais. They do not lament, which is different than ma'ainanais, as the Gemara will say. Nik bara meis, once the person is buried, loy ma'anais or loy metapchais. So they're not ma'anais and not metapchais, they don't cry and they don't clap their hands. The Mishnah here itself actually says what the meaning of ma'anais is. Ezehu inui. What does this term ma'anais mean? Shakulan aynais ka'achais. When they all are crying all together as one. Kina, and the term of mekainanais is sha'achas medaberes. One is speaking, and v'kulan aynais achareh, and then the others respond and cry after her. Shenem, as we see this in the lashon of the pasuk, it says, "V'lameidna b'nei seichem nehi." I will bring to your daughters nehi, which is the ma'anais, and then the isha reusa kina, and one woman with her friends will bring a kina, which means that one responds to the other. Mishnah concludes in a positive, Avala asad lavoi, when Mashiach comes, so the pasuk says, Bila mavis lanetzach, that the death will be swallowed up forever, Umach Hashem alakim dima, the Eibusha will wipe away tears, mal kalpanim, from every face, v'gaimer. Zok the Gemara, Mai amaran, these women that are eulogizing and are crying, what did they say? Amarav, so Rav said, Vai la'ozla, Vai to the one that's going on his way, and Vai la'chavila, and Vai to the package that's going. What's this package? So the Farshim say this refers to the neshama. The neshama of a person is like a pekadon you have, or like a collateral that you're holding, and then you're returning that package to the Eibishter. Amar Rava said, Noshi the Shechnitziv. These women from the place Shechnitziv, which were women that were just apparently wise women, and they had a special nusach that they would say by a levaya when they were eulogizing. Amr and Hachi, they said as follows, like Rav said, Vai la'ozla, Vai to the one that's going, and Vai la'chavilo, Vai to the package that's being returned to its owner. Rava said, Nashid the Shechnitziv Amoran. The women of Shechnitziv would say, good garma, cut the bones, mikacha, from the jaws of a person. When a person passes away, his jaws can't chew, he can't eat anymore. V'nimti maya, la'antichi. And the water comes up like the water that's coming out of a person into a kettle. Meaning that the water that he can't swallow anymore, he can't eat anymore. It's a simple pshat in the Gemara. Some of Farshim say, nimti maya la'antichi means that he can't eat anymore. Instead, he has the water, which refers to the water of Teira. He can't eat gashmis, the food anymore, but instead, he takes the water from the kettle, which is Teira, and that he could eat. Rava said, Nashi the Shechnitziv Amaran, the women of Shechnitziv would say as follows, Atoy, the Kasu, Turi, wrap yourself and cover yourself, the turi, the high places, the mountains, and wrap yourself in darkness. The bar Rami or bar Avrivi, of this great person that's in a high place, and a high level that passed away. Bar Avrivihu. Rava said, that these women of Shechnetziv would say as follows: Shiul itztala de milsa, to borrow that's one pshat, that it refers to borrow a garment which is made from fine wool, or it's made from silk, leva chayrin, for a free person, the shlimus avdei, because he has nothing anymore of his own. He doesn't have any sustenance of his own. Meaning, a person in this world lives a life and he's rich, and then when he passes away with nothing, and he has to borrow from someone else. Rava said, Nashi the Shechnetziv Amaran, these women would say, Rohit, the person is running, Vinofel Amabre, and he falls when he's trying to cross over. He's crossing over a bridge, or in this case, he's crossing over to the other world, V'yuz Yosef, and he has to borrow in order to be able to cross over. So whatever riches a person attains in this world, he's running and running, but when he comes to that world, he can come with nothing, and he's crossing over borrowing. Rava said, Nashi the Shechnetziv Amaran, these women of Shechnetziv would say, Achana Tagori, our brothers, which was a merchant in this world, and he was rich in this world, but azavzegi mivdeku. But then azavzegi means what he acquired. What did he accomplish is going to be inspected. What does he have for himself when he comes into the world to come? Rava said, Nashi the Shechnetziv Amaran, these women of Shechnetziv would say, Maisa ki maisa. Every death is like a death. Person passes away. That's what happens. But umarin chibulya. But it's bad for those people of chibulya, which means people that did ribis, people that were Isaac in ribis. So this is terrible for them. Tanya Rab Meir said, Toiv l'lechas al beis oval. Pasuk says it's better to go to the house of an oval than to go to the house of a simcha. And then it says, the conclusion of the pasuk, v'achai yitn libay, that the living person should take to heart. Dvarim shal mise, dvarim shal mise. So this is, what should a person take to heart? These things about what happens when a person passes away. So you should think as follows. The yaspid, that if one eulogizes someone else, yaspidune, they will eulogize him. He'll be zeichet to a eulogy as well. The yikver, if he buries others, yikverune, he'll be zeichet that he'll be buried as well. The yitan, if he carries someone else to the kvura, yitanune, they'll carry him. The yidal, yidlune. If he'll raise his voice in a hesped to cry for another, so the people will raise their voice for him to cry for him. Others say that Yidarshan is the opposite. Dela Yidal, a person that's not raising himself up to be a Balgaive, Yudline, him the Eibusha will raise up. The Chsiv, as the Pasuk says, Kitayv Amalacha Leiheina, the Eibusha will raise you up and say, go up here. The Pasuk there continues, and it refers to someone that keeps and holds himself small. When the children of Rabbi Shmuel passed away, he had one son that passed away, and then another son that passed away. So Nichnasu Dalit Skeinim Lenachman. So 4 elders came to console him: Tarfin, Rabbi Yossi Aglili, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, and Rabbi Akiva. Amalem Rabbi Tarfin said to them, you should know, Shechacham Gadlu is very wise, Ubaki Ba'agodis, and he's very proficient even in the Agodis, even in the Midrashim. When we speak to him, we should speak with the proper respect, and one shouldn't speak while the other is speaking. Everyone will say something separately. And then Rabbi Akiva said, Va'ani achrei, and I will speak last. Pasach Rabbi Shmuel, the Oval himself has to begin. So he began and said, Rabu Aveinaisav, how much are his sins, referring to himself. Tachfu Avelov, I have one Avelos after the other when my 2 children passed away. Hitriach Rabbaisav Pam Rishayna Shnia, and I bothered my Rebbes to come to me to be Menachem over me once and twice. Then Rab Tarfon responded, and he said, that all of the Yidden are crying for what the Eibishter brought, what the Eibishter burnt, when Nadav and Avi passed away. So that Kal V'Chomer is, Nadav and Avi passed away over there on that day with one mitzvah that they did. What was that mitzvah? That they brought the dam of the carbon then. So Kach Banav Shal Rabbi Shmuel. So too the children of Rabbi Shmuel, Alachas Kama V'Kama, most definitely. So everyone should cry for all the mitzvahs that they did in the world. Nana Rabbi Yossi Aglili V'Amar. Then Rabbi Yossi Aglili came and said to him, V'Saptu Le'Kol Yisrael V'Kavru Yisai, that all the Yidden eulogized him and they buried him. V'Alei Dvarim Kal V'Chomer. It's a Kal V'Chomer from that pasuk. Who's that pasuk talking about? It's talking about Uma Avia ben Yeravam. Avia, which was the son of Yeravam. Yeravam was a Rasha. He didn't allow Yidden to be Oile Regel. He made Avodah Zarah. So the son of Yeravam, Shelo Yasa Ela Davar Echad Toiv. He only did one good thing. It was found in him one good thing, and the Yidden cried for him when he passed away. The children of Rabbi Shmuel, they did so many good things, for sure we should cry for them. So now my David Toiv, what is this one good thing that Aviyah, the son of Yeravam, did? So Rab Zayda, Rab Chinin, and Bar Papa, they both said different things what he did. Chadama, one said, Shebitel Mishmartoi Vala Regel. He was mevatel what his father appointed him, that he should take guard, not to allow Yidden to go to Eretz Yisrael, and he didn't do it. And he went, he was Oile Regel. The Chadam, another said, Shebitl Pardesais, that he got rid of all of those police that his father put on the roads, not to allow the Yid to be Oile Regel. Shaishiv Yeravim Aviv Aladrachim, Shalayal Yisrael Regel, that his father placed, the Yidden shouldn't go. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah answered, and he said, B'shalom Thomas, in peace you will die. In those times the minig was, and a king passes away, certain of his possessions, they would burn them. It shouldn't fall into anyone else's hands. So this is being told to the king Tzidkiyahu that he will die in peace and all of his possessions will be burnt. So again, it's a kavachimer. That in the pasuk on that day we find that he did one mitzvah. Shehela Yirmiyah minatit. That Yirmiyah, then people were upset at Yirmiyah, what he was saying about the Chorban. They threw him into the mud, and he took him out, and that was the one good thing that it says about him. And the Yidden, and because of this, he's promised that he's going to pass away. In Shalom, Kach Banav Shal Rabbi Shmuel, Lachas Kam V'Kama. The children of Rabbi Shmuel, most definitely we should cry for them when they passed away. Then Nene Rabbi Akiva, which was the last one, so he said, by Yom Ahu, on that day when Mashiach comes, Yigdal HaMispad B'Yerushalayim, there's going to be a big eulogy in Yerushalayim, Kemispad HaHadrimoim Bebikas Megidai. Like this hesped of Adrimoin and Bikas Megidai. What does this mean? So we had this once before in the Gemara, when Megillah. What is this hesped of Hadrimoin and Bikas Megidai? From Rav Yosef Ilmalei Targume Da Haikra. If not for the translation that we know that was given to us on this pasuk, Lehavi Yadaina Mai Kamad. We have no idea what this hesped of Hadrimoin Bikas Megidai means. So what does it mean? Be'idanahu, in that time when Mashiach comes, Yizge Mizbeda Yerushalayim. There will be a tremendous hesped in Yerushalayim. Kimispeda the Achav bar Omri, like the hesped that there was for Achav bar Achav, which was Achav bar Omri, the king Achav. The Katl Yasei Hadrimon bat Tavriman. Who killed him? Hadrimon bat Tavriman. So that's one hesped. There was a very big hesped for Achav. And then when it said Bikas Megidai, that's a different hesped. Ukimispa the Yoshi bar Amain, the Katl Yasei Pare Chagira bebikas Megidai, which Pare killed him in the valley of Megidai. So it's the two different hespedim that Lasat Lavi will be a tremendous hesped like this. So this is the hesped. If you remember, we learned in the Gemara, I believe this is going in the hesped of the Malach HaMavis that will be killed, or Mashiach ben Yosef. So the Gemara says, Rabbi Akiva said, so there's a kavachaim here. Oma Achav Melech Yisrael, Achav, the king of the Yidden. Shalayasa ela davar echad toiv. He only did one good thing. D'chsiv HaMelech Haya Maimed b'merkave noicha charam. That the only good thing that he did was when the Yidden went and fought, even after there was an arrow that was thrown at him, he didn't run away from the battle because he didn't want the Yidden to think that they're losing the war. So he stood there. That was the good thing that he did then. So for that one good thing, it says that he had a tremendously big hesped. Kach banav shel Rabbi Shmuel, the children for Rabbi Shmuel, Lachas Kam V'Kam, was definitely they deserve that we should cry for them. So he asked him the following question. It said by Tzidkiyahu, the pasuk we quoted before, B'Shalom Thomas, you'll pass away in peace. Uksiv, but it also says by Tzidkiyahu, that before he passed away, he was blind. How could you consider that to be that he passed away peacefully if he became blind? Rabbi Yochanan says, what does this mean that he passes away in peace? That he saw Nebuchadnezzar passed away in his lifetime. That was his peace. Rav asked a similar question to Rabbi Bar Mori. By Yoshiyahu, the pasuk says, that I will add you to your forefathers, and you will pass away to your caver in peace. But then it says in the pasuk, that the people threw arrows at him, at the king Yoshiyahu. How could that be a peaceful passing away? When they threw arrows at him, they made him like a sieve. That's how many arrows went on him. Amalei Acham Rabbi Yechanan. Rabbi Yechanan said the reason why it's considered that he passed away in peace is because Shleichara Beis Hamikdash b'yamav, because the Beis Hamikdash was not destroyed in his times. Rabbi Yechanan said, Ein menachamim rashaim loymar davar. People that come to console a aval are not supposed to say anything at sheyiftach aval, until the aval himself begins speaking. Shenem, as the pasuk says, Achrei kein pasach Iyov es piyu, that Iyov opened up his mouth, and then v'hada vayan Alifas Atimani. Only after this, Alifas Atimani responded. Rabbi Ravo said, how do I know that an oval, so he reclines at the head, he sits at the head. Shenama, the pasuk says, Efcha darkem ve'eshev roish, I choose their ways and I sit at the head, ve'eshkain kemelech bigdud, and I sit like a king in the group of the people. Kasher avelim yenachim, like avelim that come to console. So here we see that the oval sits at the head. So the Gemara asks, Yenachem achrini mashma. Yenachem is mashma that those that come to console, they sit at the head. You have to, it says in the pasuk to read it, Yenachem, that the one that gets consoled, he sits at the head. Mazutra says from here, V'sar marzach suruchim. So V'sar marzach suruchim, he darshans this. Marzach means, marzach refers to the oval, because the word is mar and zach. That he's mar, he's bitter, and zach, and his mind is not with him. Nasasar l'sruchim. He becomes a minister for sruchim. Rashi says sruchim means everybody. He becomes a minister for everybody else sitting at the head. Similar thing the Gemara says, how do we know that a chasen sits at the head of everybody? Shenem, as the pasuk says, k'chasen yikayin peher, that a chasen is like a kayin in his splendor. Ma kayin beroish, just like a kayin has to always be at the head, right? When it comes to everything. Av chasen beroish, a chasen should also be at the head. The kayin gufim in Allah, where do we see that a kayin is at the head? Because it says regarding a kayin, the Tana of Rabbi Shmuel, the kidashtoi, that you have to sanctify the kayin l'chol davisha b'kedusha, for any holy thing, l'ftoyach rishon, to be the first. He gets the first aliyah, and so too v'levarech, by benching, he's one that benches rishon first, v'litlu mana yafer rishon, and to take a good portion first, and the same thing also, a chasna has to be the first.